Okay. Well, that happened. So, anyways, um, all in all, hopefully no audio or video. That is fantastic to know. Hold on. Is it better now? Is it better now? Sorry about that, everybody. Sorry for the technical difficulties. But all in all, I just wanted to thank you all for coming on and listening. I want to thank Linear and I want to thank TART or the Atheist Round Table for also being a patron. If you want to be a patron, please hit the links down below and you can check out the our patron page. So now, without further ado, I want to bring on a guest, a good friend of mine that had helped me create other channels prior to, and is also the host of the Borg Skeptic. Please help me introduce, or please let me introduce, my apologies, Katy Sykes. Katy Sykes, how are you doing
Hello.
today?
How are you doing? I'm doing absolutely great myself. It's great to be here.
I am doing absolutely fantastic, and I am super happy that you are here, that we can have this type of conversation. And now everything's seeming to be okay, technically, at least with the with everything at the moment. um, I would like to actually give you a couple of minutes in order to explain to our viewers who you are and what you do and everything towards that extent.
Yeah, so a couple of years back, I started the YouTube channel, the Borg Skeptic. Ran a few different shows off of there, discussing Jehovah's Witnesses. As an ex-Jehovah's Witness myself, I was discussing the philosophy behind cults and the dangers that cults pose. To people who get caught up in them or people who may get caught up in them, and trying to help people to, for want of a better phrase, see sense and get out of there and have the freedom back again. I moved on to, after a conversation with you, helping you run the start and run the Promethean channel. Which is now Skeptic Haven, I believe, isn't it?
That is correct.
Yes. They're doing a great job over there, as far as I can tell. Obviously, a couple of years ago, I had to leave that. I had some difficulties keeping everything together in my head. It's can be tough. Discussing religion on a daily basis, and especially when you've had trauma and that in the past from religion, specifically. So I had to go on a break, but I'm happy to be here and discuss it today.
I'm happy that you are here in order to discuss that. And I know that there's been, as you stated, trauma in the past. So we're not going to stay in there for too long or anything like that. And after we'll actually switch to like how you got to this point where you're at today. So all in all, you stated that the religion that you were brought up in was Jehovah's Witness.
Yes.
And you also stated that there was, if I remember correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but the way that Jehovah's Witness kind of interacts with their adherents is sort of in like a hierarchical type of system, right? And that there can be certain abuses that do happen within Jehovah's Witness that needs to pass the Hightower Society, if I'm not mistaken.
Watchtower Society.
Watchtower, my
You were close.
Very close. So the Watchtower Society is what again, if you don't mind me asking?
So the Watchtower and Bible Tract Society is the partly the leadership of the cult itself, of Jehovah's Witnesses, made up of the governing body, which is a group of men which sit at the top. Can only be men, no women in that circle. And they are supposedly like the representatives of God on Earth. That carry out His will, and pass on new truths to the flock. Thing. It's also the business arm of the organization as well.
Huh.
So
I'm
they have a publication industry where they make publications, do printing, and they will make a lot of money off of that. And they also have a real estate business there as well, which is run by the Watchtower and Bible Tract Society, where they will build kingdom halls, they will build relief centers and other places, and eventually they will sell them off for a big profit and make quite a lot of money. If you want to know more about that, I suggest watching Lloyd Evans on his channel, because he goes in depth into that.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely. Because, and it's true, Lloyd Evans is very knowledgeable in about Jehovah's Witness and everything like that and what they do. So if you do want to have more context and everything like that, go to Lloyd Evans' YouTube channel, and you can get all or much more information. But thank you for actually giving us that introduction into what the Watchtower Society is and what it does, in a sense, and how it interacts with the religious, but at the same exact time, the kind of like economic side of things as well, the more monetary side of things.
Yeah.
And how, but that's very interesting though, because it makes it really seem that they are able to make tons of money through the properties that they own.
It's a multi-billion-pound business, multi-million-dollar business.
Cool.
So it's very profitable for them. And it's something that a lot of the run-of-the-mill Jehovah's Witnesses, the members themselves, don't realize is actually happening. They're convinced that it's all a charity, and it's a non-profit organization, when in reality it's anything but.
Wow. That is crazy. Because we've had discussions like this beforehand, but it's kind of like bringing this whole thing out to light about what the Watchtower Society actually is and what it does and how it actually functions as an entity or as a body, in a sense. It's sort of like a business more than anything, a religious business.
It's more of a business than it is a religion, I would say. Obviously, when I was in Jehovah's Witnesses, I had no knowledge of it, but after being out for many years now, I can finally see what the organization actually does stand for, which is money, money, money.
Right, exactly. Now, just one other thing, if you don't mind me asking, is that were you somebody who was sort of like brought into Jehovah's Witness when you were younger, or were you kind of born into Jehovah's Witness in a sense?
I was born in fourth, maybe fifth generation. I'm not quite sure on the genealogy there, but yeah, many of my family members, generations before me, were Jehovah's Witnesses as well. So it was actually quite in depth for me growing up. As a Jehovah's Witness, I was pushed very hard to learn as much as I could about the way things work within the organization. Being born male was also meant that I had power within the organization. I was pushed very hard to not only become a pioneer for them, but to also become a ministerial servant for them, to give speeches for them at the many conventions and meetings and things like that.
Huh. Okay. And with that being stated, because as you were stating, like just being born male had put anybody within that gender role, right,
Mm-hmm.
within some sort of power structure as it is. But what
Mm-hmm.
happens if you were born female? What was the circumstance for females?
Very different. You are subordinate to all men within the organization. It's the old style, the 18th century style of masculine, feminine genders, where women are subordinate to the men, where they must obey the men, and they don't have as much stature as the men. It's very backward and very unjust, really. Some of the things that you hear about, the ex-sisters from the organization, some of the things that they tell you about, the experiences that they had. It's not a very fun role to have within the organization. I can't imagine at all.
Right. So the whole entire thing, mostly, right, is that women have to be subordinate within there. So
Mhm.
there's no way that a woman can actually rise up to a watchtower member or anything towards that extent.
Not at all. I mean, just as an analogy for it of what actually happens, there was times that I remember when I was as a brother within the organization, I had to give a group prayer for before going out on the door-to-door work. It was one of the roles that I had to do sometimes, and I remember a couple of times when I was the only brother there, and it was
Oh,
a room full of sisters that I was having to do the prayer with, um, and they had to be subordinate to me. And if for any reason, which happened once, um, there was a sister that needed to give the prayer and not me, um, which can happen sometimes, she had to actually put on uh, like a cover over her head. She actually had to put I think she put like a dinner mat over her head to
oh,
show her subordination to me.
wow.
And I can't remember what scripture they use for that, but there's a scripture which so in some sense it's very like Islamic, I would say, in some senses, some
Right.
parts of the organization.
Right. I was actually about to say the same thing too. Um, but then from that reason, right? Because it seemed I would hear certain individuals if they would hear something like that, right? That they would be like, well, then if somebody had that much power within an organization, what would be the reason for them to leave in the first place, right? Because like you have all that influence, and a lot of people think that influence and power corrupts individuals into wanting to stay and to perpetuate that power structure. But what was the thing for you that slowly but surely started to make you not want to be part of the movement in the first place or part of that religious sect?
Well, for me, it was twofold. I would say the first thing is I never actually truly believed in the religion at all. I was doing it as a protection for myself. As a child, I was being sexually abused on a daily basis, and
Wow.
physically abused on a daily basis as well for about 10 years of my life.
Mm.
Um, and so for me, the pushing myself further into the religion was a protection. It meant that I could be out of the house. I didn't have to go through as much abuse as I would have done otherwise. It gave me power, which is something that I never had at home. So the power was actually a nice thing in that respect.
Right.
Gave me some confidence to actually feel like I'm actually doing something with my life.
Mm.
But underneath all of that, I never believed. And that's something which over time built up and built up until I just couldn't do it anymore. I was being dishonest with myself. Putting on this act all of the time. Yeah, and especially when a lot of what you have to do is door-to-door work, is going out and converting other people, convincing other people of what it is that you believe. And when you're starting to see the dangers of the organization that you're in and the teachings that you're having to teach, it becomes it becomes very, very difficult to try and convince other people of that. And it becomes wrong to teach other people that, because you start to get an idea that you're probably destroying their lives.
Right.
You're getting them into something which they're very rarely going to get out of.
That is a really good point. That is a really good point that you brought up. And I think this actually goes into the next question that I wanted to ask, because as you were stating, when you feel that you're leading people down the wrong direction, you're leading people down maybe a direction that would lead to more harm for those individuals than good. But what I heard, now I can be completely wrong based on what I'm about to say, so again, please correct me if I am, but I've heard that they have an obituary index, in a sense that the Jehovah's Witness has an obituary index, and they will go sometimes to people's homes that are grieving. Is that true, or is that just some sort of?
I don't ever remember that.
Mm,
I don't think it was something which was done in my particular area.
okay.
But I have heard it from other ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, quite a few, in fact. That is something that whether they've always done it or whether it's something that they've just started doing, I'm not 100% certain. But yeah, I would say it's definitely true. There is enough evidence to say that that is actually happening.
Yeah, and I guess that kind of goes into, because as you stated, that wasn't within your area that this was happening in, but in the areas that it is happening in, it seems like this is not only just wanting to get converts, but trying to get people at their lowest points,
Yeah.
right? In
See,
order, because sorry, go ahead.
yeah, they'd wrap it up a little bit differently. So, Joe's Witness in their mind would be doing something like that. Get them at not at the lowest point, but get them at the point where they really need your help, where they really need help and comfort and all of that. And so they view it as a charity, as going out and improving upon somebody's life.
Right.
Whereas obviously in reality it's completely different. They're just going and probably just destroying that person's life and taking away that person's freedom when they don't really have the ability at that point to turn them away.
Exactly. And from that way, because as you were stating, you started to figure out that this was not the right path to go down, and even you were thinking that this is not what I want to do to other people. And when that finally started to happen for you, what was your steps in order to, because I know it's extremely difficult, like it was for me, to leave a particular religion, because this is a thing that this is all you know, and when you leave it, or when you're beginning to leave it or lose faith in it, it seems like, or at least for me, my whole world was almost like flipping upside down. Was that the same thing for you?
Most definitely, yes. I mean, not so much in what I knew and everything, because I had been studying, I'd had science and learning a lot about different scientific fields as a hobby of mine. So I did have that to fall back on, but what just fell apart for me was the religion took away my entire family. I had all my family, all my friends, everything. When I left, they took all of that away, prevented any of them from speaking with me. So any connection I had was not was just completely broken straight away, under the threat of they'll be kicked out of the religion as well. Not just them, but their families as well, if they were to speak to me and not treat me as if I'm dead. And that's what happens when you leave this particular cult, is they will strip everything from you. I've heard stories of people being stripped of their homes, of their jobs, of their absolutely everything that they have, just for simply not believing anymore and
Wow.
walking
So,
away.
so the whole entire thing that they're trying to do is literally destroy the person's life in order
Yeah,
to make it harder for other believers, I guess, to leave in a sense.
yeah.
So it's kind of like you may have dissenting thoughts, but look at what the ramifications are if you do go down this path. Or is this something completely different where it's just that we want to try to give the utmost hardship to a disbeliever in a sense, and it's not necessarily for
Well,
a scare tactic for everybody else?
it is a scare tactic for everyone else, but I don't think that's the true reason why they're doing it. The reason I think they're doing it is not just to hurt the person or to scare off other people from doing it. It's to give you as much trouble as possible in the likelihood that you're going to come back and see sense. So they're
Huh.
trying to persuade you to come back into the fold. Look how beautiful it is in here. Look how nice it is in here. That lovely life that you had. Everything was easy and you were cared for, and you had family, you had friends, you had a job, you had a house, you had everything. We were there to support you whenever you needed it. But look, now you're out in the cold. Look, we told you the world is bad. The world is horrible. You're not going to be able to survive out there. You should have listened to us. Now come back to us and we'll give you everything once again. So it's trying to keep on to the members.
Wow. Yeah, Linear even stated something that brought this thought to my mind as well. It sounds like Scientology in a sense.
Yeah.
Because I do think that these tactics, and just like how you stated, it wasn't necessarily that they want, like, they do want to scare you, but they want to scare you back in a sense. It's like, look at what you miss, and look at what you're missing right now. Return to the fold and see how much you can regain from coming back, or when you come back in a sense. Interesting. That's a very interesting and scary thing when you really look at it.
Oh yeah, they'll stop at nothing to try and keep on to members and trying to make new members. They'll stop at nothing to do that. In their minds, they've been taught since they either joined or since they were born and been raised in it. Each of the members are taught that they're saving people's lives. That if they don't do this work, if they don't keep people in the religion or convert people to the religion, then those people are going to die at Armageddon. And
Wow.
it's their job to go out and teach these people what they need to know to be able to survive at Armageddon.
Interesting. So when you were slowly but surely starting to leave the religion, when was it? Because they must have slowly but surely started to realize at some point, right, that
Hmm.
you were starting to fall away and stuff like that. Because as you were stating, they try to cut you from your family and everything towards that extent. But was that right away when they knew that you had these thoughts, or was this before, or what was the
Well,
situation?
no, I mean, when you're trying to leave an organization like Jehovah's Witnesses, there's, or within Jehovah's Witnesses specifically, I don't know if this happens for other people leaving other cults, but you've got to try and fade. You've got to take it slowly, miss the odd meeting here and there, spend a little bit less time out on the door-to-door work. And, this can take a couple of years. trying to just slowly just fade out in the hope that you can get out without anybody noticing. Some people manage it. Other people, like myself, not so lucky. I got so far through the fading, I'd pretty much stopped going to all the meetings. I'd stopped going on all the field work, or the door-to-door work. I'd stopped all of that. And I thought I was out until I got a knock on the door one day, and it was a couple of elders. And I mean, I was couch surfing. I don't know how they found me. Well, I do now. They had me followed, but yeah, I was couch surfing. They'd knock on the door. This was about 11:30 at night. It was pitch black outside, and they're knocking at my door. It's a couple of these elders, which are the congregation leaders.
Okay.
And they basically dragged me out of the house, dragged me into the next street in the back alley where they'd parked the car, bundled me into the back of their car, locked the doors. There was four of them in the car, and they're just all like heads, like literally touching my head, just like all peering in on me, with like really stern faces. And they proceeded to pull out a file, and they proceeded to give me an ultimatum. They showed me all of this evidence, as they put it. They'd hacked my phone records. They'd hacked my internet records. They had pictures of me, had me followed for numerous months. They had set up using all of my details and everything that they'd hacked. They set up a profile of me on a escort website, setting me up as a male prostitute.
What?
And so they did that so they could use that as evidence to disfellowship me, because they had nothing else on me. So they fabricated all of the evidence that they needed. They had made it look like I was smoking, that I was heavily drinking, that I was taking drugs, that everything that they could throw at me, they fabricated and threw at me, and then gave me the ultimatum. Either you come back and do exactly what we want of you, otherwise we're going to throw all of this at you and kick you out of the organization. And I said, well, you know what? Screw it. I'll leave. And they went and did it anyway.
Wow.
Which messed me up for a few years, because I suddenly had this reputation of being a male prostitute, and I'd never done anything like that in my life. So I had to sort that out. It took a couple of years to cancel all that and sort it all. But to this day, the family that are still in still believe that I've done all of those things that they said I was doing.
Wow. That's so fucked up. Jesus Christ. Sorry that happened to you.
You live and learn.
Jesus. But so after that, I don't even know what else to say. That's just insane.
Yeah, well, I saw a different side of them, and it really helped. It really helped me understanding, what the organization really was. It is a cult, and it is run as a cult. And the people in charge know a lot more about it than what they let on. I mean, these men, I'd known them all of my life. I'd known them for many, many years, and I always thought that they were kind, loving, caring people that you could trust 100%. And then suddenly to see that side of them so quickly and so abruptly, it was a shock at the time, but it really helped me see sensefully.
Right. It seemed, because as you stated, the trauma of that must have been absolutely horrendous. But at the same time, it kind of showed you these individuals of who they are and this organization for what it is. So it I don't know, because some people would say of religious mindset, well, see, this event happened for a good reason, but I don't see, even though that it did show you the realities of the situation within this movement or within this religious cult, there's I can't say that that was a good outcome, because the reality of the situation is that I wish that that didn't happen to you, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I wish it hadn't happened to me. You know, for many years, it messed me up psychologically. What it was. I've got a condition known as religious trauma syndrome, which has caused many other problems: social anxiety, agoraphobia, mental health problems such as bipolar and severe depression, and so I've had a lot to deal with because of those events. Um, and yeah, it's been a long process to come out of the other end. Finally, I am out of the other end of that and putting my life back together again.
Right.
But I can imagine for some people, if that had happened to them, it would have destroyed them completely. I
Yeah.
was lucky in the sense that I had the strength to push back out of the other side. But I've heard of people, committing suicide because of some of the tactics that they've used when they've tried to leave.
Jesus. So when you were out and now away from this cult, what was your first kind of interaction being, I guess, in a like, were you automatically an atheist at that time, or would you say that you were like spiritualist in a sense, where you weren't
Hmm.
necessarily sure like what there was, and henceforth maybe there could still be something out there? Or what's your
Um, I think I was agnostic at the time.
Hmm.
I remember trying. I tried learning about different religions. So I tried learning a bit, not so much Christianity because I just couldn't. I'd seen too much of Christianity and done too much study into the Bible. I knew definitely that there was just nothing to that. Um, so I tried different things like I tried Wicca, not practicing Wicca, but tried learning about Wicca and the pagan religions. I tried learning about Buddhism and looking into some of the more ancient beliefs, I can't remember is it Reism, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
reism. Yeah.
I looked into a bit of that. And nothing ever stood out to me. Nothing really. There was no like hallelujah moments, if you
Right.
please, with any of them, where it's like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It just all didn't make sense, and uh, so I looked more into science again. Uh, studying the reason, the reason for things within science, the knowledge that we actually do have, and to see if that could actually build up a full enough picture to answer a lot of the questions that religion says that they can answer. And that's when I realized that actually, yes, we can actually answer a lot of these things. And the picture that you can paint with science is a lot fuller than the picture than you can paint with religion. And there's no faith element to it. It's proven. So I decided, well, that's the best. That's where I should be putting my attention.
Hmm.
Is in the scientific world. So I count myself as a scientific atheist.
Yeah, I would put myself in that as well. Like, slowly but surely building up on the philosophical aspects, but I would call myself a scientific atheist as well. Actually, before I continue, because it wasn't necessarily a question, but it was a statement, and I would
Mhm.
just like to see if it can be clarified. Jasir316, hopefully I stated your name correctly, said, my understanding of the JW is that higher education is discouraged. Is that true?
For the most part, yes. They have many talks. I've given some of the talks myself from the platform, about how higher education is damaging to one's faith, that these schools are teaching things which will turn you away from the faith. That Satan is the one that's running the world, and Satan is the one that's ultimately running these schools and putting misinformation in there. So it is highly discouraged. Interestingly, though, they actually do have scholarships to send some Jehovah's Witnesses, always brothers, not sisters, but they will send some of their brothers off to university and college and things like that to learn law, to learn 3D design and writing and journalism and all of these things. So anything that the organization needs, they'll throw away those rules to get what they
Interesting.
need.
Huh. So only, which makes sense though, right? Because that's the things that they really need, and they need people who are experts at that in order to protect themselves and to promote themselves in a particular way and in a particular
Yeah.
light. Interesting. Okay. Okay. Thank you for that. And Jasir 316, thank you very much for stating that statement so I can get more clarification on that. Thank you. So back to where we were at beforehand. So you call yourself a scientific atheist because you delved in, you were trying to read up on other faiths in a sense, and those other faiths in and of themselves just didn't have that inclination, that kind of aha moment for
Yeah.
you. Likewise with me too. Like when I left Islam, I myself went into Buddhism, but I only stayed in there for close to a year, and then after I left, because I realized that there was still a spiritual element within that, in a sense, and the reincarnation of things and everything, which I myself am not really into. And I tried,
Yeah.
but it just didn't really make sense to me. Um, so when you finally came into your scientific atheism, did it actually help you understand the new circumstance that you were in at that very moment, like when you realize that I don't necessarily need faith in order to feel like I have some sort of purpose in a sense?
Yeah. So for me, it was sort of I saw the beauty of science, and I saw that I didn't need no faith because uh, it, when you look at science and you look at the fact that we're basically just stardust. We've just come from our sun, from the leftovers of the creation of the formation of our star, and I just find that beautiful, and it's got this beauty sense to it. The thing, I mean, even the fact of when we die, we just go back to just go back to the earth, go back to the soil, and decompose, and then uh, uh, help become nutrients for life in the future. I find that beautiful as well. It's this circle of life is a lot more beautiful than, oh, God did it,
Right.
and
I
oh, we're
agree.
gonna live forever. Who wants to live forever? It would be a boring existence.
Very
You-
true. And a lot of people would say, sorry about that. A lot of people would say that living forever, in a sense, wouldn't help spur our creativity, in a sense, because if I can do it
oh,
tomorrow, then why do I need to do it today? Right. And henceforth, you can put off things more and more and more and more and more until you actually just end up not doing the things that you wish to do in the first place. But because our lifespan is so short, in a sense, only 80 years for those who are lucky, um, And then later on, you have 60, 50, and all the rest of that. You never know when your time is going to come, right? So the
Yeah,
beauty is living in the now rather than living in the tomorrow. And I think that in and of itself, atheism has truly helped, in a sense, me, where it's just like that is the most beautiful thing. Live in the present. Don't live for some future time or some future paradise that you don't even know is real. If you live in the now,
exactly.
you're always going to be living within the realm of the real.
Exactly. It's a lot more
So,
beautiful than what religion can put forward, and and it answers a lot more questions than what religion can as well.
right,
When I look at it, it always seems like religion's always trying to catch up with the new revelations that science makes, and
right,
they rejected at first, and then eventually, oh no, we can't come up with any more excuses, so we'll incorporate that into what we believe, which means that religion's always changing, but not in a good way. It's always becoming weaker in its arguments.
right. Exactly. Exactly. And I think that is the most beautiful thing, right? Is that when you look at it more closely, we start to realize that religions in and of themselves are just mythos. And through these mythos that human beings have created uh, over the thousands of years, we're slowly starting to see that science can slowly but surely show the mythos for what it is, and predominantly what it is stories. And that is
Yeah,
that is something that I love that science can do, and what philosophy can do is really open up that box and show the realities of things. And so I
yeah.
completely agree with you, and I think that is beautiful.
I feel that religion it's becoming to the time now where religion needs to stop being something which teaches truth, or tries to teach truth, because that's what we've got science for.
Yes,
It needs to become part of history. To still keep it around, but it's teaching us about the way that we used to do things, the way that the human intellect was formed to begin with, and how we used religion to to help our society flourish. Um,
exactly.
but we don't need it anymore to do that, because we have other mechanisms in place now, which can do that just the same, if not better.
Absolutely. And what I would say, because that was the one thing that caught me into the Borg skeptic, was that you yourself was really trying to show what the Watchtower Society is. And what you were trying to do is really try to promote the sciences in a way that it was understandable for the layman, in a sense, and really tried to show that environment where it's like we don't need mythos in order to understand truth, or at
Yeah,
least in order to try to estimate what the truth is, you know. And I think that in and of itself is a beautiful thing that science has done, and I think that you yourself have done a fantastic job in promoting that in the Borg skeptic as well.
oh, thank you. That
Absolutely.
means a lot.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's why for me it was I was ecstatic to have you come back into the YouTube community once more and everything like that, and really, if ever, to start up again or whatever the situation is, or if that's not the thing that you want to do, then we have plenty of platforms that are here that you can help out in that area, because I think that you're very knowledgeable within the sciences and stuff like that.
Yeah, I
Or
definitely want to get involved again within the YouTube community. Whether that means doing my own channel, I'm not sure, because it was a lot of work doing it all on my own. Uh, all of the background production and everything is very difficult to run. So I don't think I'd be wanting to do that again. But I am definitely wanting to get involved, guesting, co-hosting, things like that on other people's channels and that.
That would be fantastic. So now, where we're at today,
Mhm.
what is Katy Sykes doing today at this time frame?
At the moment, I'm at university and I'm studying social psychology.
Hmm.
I've got ideas about where I want to go as far as research is concerned, and the first thing that I need to do is I need to push towards getting, if possible, get a PhD, so that I can do the research that I want to actually do.
Nice.
So I'm pushing very hard towards trying to do that.
Okay. Okay. And the research that you are wanting to do, because you're saying that you're going into social psychology, so maybe for individuals that are not particularly sure what social psychology is, do you want to give a little introduction to that just so that they can understand?
Social psychology is a broad field of psychology. It deals partly with the psychological, but it also deals a lot with the social aspects of life as well. So, sociology, politics, geometry, and
Hmm.
uh, uh, you know, uh, and all of that and everything. It basically deals with a little bit of everything, but how all of that affects the psychology.
Interesting.
Um, so at the moment, we're just studying a lot to do with the street and how the street is designed, how it works, how it's made, how it's remade, and how that affects the people that live in society and within the residential and commercial areas.
Right. I've heard certain things where individuals have this tendency where the street or cities are too, how could I say, concrete in a sense, meaning that
Mm.
there's not that many green spaces in certain cities, or there are few green spaces in certain cities. And I've heard that certain individuals and certain activists are trying to say bring more greenery into cities in order for people to feel, I guess that you can say, they can decompress
Mm.
from their work day at the end,
Yeah.
and I was wondering if you had anything that you wanted to say based on that in and of itself, based on, if not, it's
No,
fine, but I
no,
was just
no.
wondering.
I've read some papers uh, which are studies that have been done on this particular topic, which seem to show that people who are surrounded by greenery more than those who are surrounded by concrete tend to have a better endorphin release as far as positivity and happiness goes.
Hmm.
And there is a condition which you can develop over time if you're surrounded uh, only by concrete and bland colours,
Hmm.
and not enough fresh air. Obviously, is a big part of it as well, where you can start to release a lot more negative chemicals, and you get a lot of negativity. So it's so I think that's probably where they're coming from, trying to
Oh,
push for, trying to solve this social issue,
interesting.
and improve the lives of people who live in cities.
Huh. That's really interesting. Thank you for stating that. Also, I got a couple of things from the chat as well. First, Jasir316 wants to state, and I completely agree with this statement, Katie is a brave woman. I look forward to seeing her channel.
Oh,
So,
thank you.
yes, Jasir is
That's so
definitely an
sweet.
advocate of you, and I am as well. Um, and also, Jasir has a question. Does Katie plan to pursue psychology or sociology aspects, or both?
A bit of both, I would say. I'm looking to get into gender psychology, And a big part of that would be dealing with how researching how gender is done on a social aspect. Since it tends to be more about social interactions than it is about the personal. So, definitely a bit of both.
Huh, that's good. That's good. And as you stated, for the gender aspect or gender studies, in a sense, what are you hoping, or not hoping, but what are you planning on delving into within gender studies, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I want to answer the question of whether gender neutrality is a possible thing for society as a whole. I feel it. Um, I feel that you know this binary system that we've built for ourselves has its weaknesses, definitely. And maybe gender neutrality is a better way to go. I would like to conduct studies and research to see if that is actually feasible at all for human society, and how we would go about actually bringing that into fruition.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that that would be a wonderful thing to delve into. I think that seriously, it would help a lot in order to jump into that because, as you stated in the back, when we were behind scenes, you stated that not only if we get rid of the spectrum, will it kind of get, well, not get rid of gender identity, but it would also get rid of the binary system as well, in a sense,
Yeah,
and really bring forth that neutrality, as you stated, which in the long run, with this new neutrality within society, what do you think is going to happen from that? More acceptance from individuals that are going to be of different genders, or what's the circumstance, if you don't mind me asking?
well, I'd like to envision a future where people aren't so caught up about the differences between people, and
Mm.
willing to look at the similarities between people. When I look out at and just study people about their everyday lives, it always seems to me like people are looking at the differences more than they're looking at the similarities. You know, a man looks at a woman and is just looking at the differences between the feminine and the masculine. Um, Whereas if you had more of a gender neutral system, then you wouldn't be looking. You wouldn't have terms like feminine and masculine and the differences between those. You'd be looking at what links you to the other person and how that link can improve both of your lives and in
It's
turn improve society. So we'd be more willing to work with each other to do great things.
fantastic. Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think that that will be a great endeavor if you're able to show that that is the direction, gender neutrality is a direction of a better society, then I think that is 100% the way that society needs to go in order to, as you stated, not just look at the person for their physicalities in a sense, but look at a person for being who they are.
Exactly.
So I completely agree. Also, I agree with this statement, and we know this individual, you and I. Electrolive states, and welcome, Electrolive. Thank you so much for coming on by. Much appreciated. I always admired Katie. Just a great person I have had the honor of working with in the past.
I know exactly who that is, and yeah, I absolutely it was an honor to work with him as well. So absolutely fantastic.
Yes, yes. And at the end, because so you're going to university, which is a beautiful thing in and of itself. Is there any other things that you are doing at the moment that you wish to let our fellow viewers see? No, I mean.
Um, at the moment, I've been mainly just taking time out for myself. I'm obviously going through a transition at the moment, and been taking hormones for about a year now. So there's been a lot of changes in my body and my feelings and hormones and all of that and everything. So I've just been trying to deal with all of that while also doing my studies as well. So I haven't really had a lot of time for anything else.
Understandable. But as I stated too, I'm super happy to have you back uh, into the community in and of itself. I am super happy to have you on the show tonight because just like how Jasir and Electrolive stated, I have worked with you in the past. We have been able to create such a strong friendship, and I'm so super happy that you are back and wanting to delve in to the community once more and once again. And I would love to work with you in the future, if anything.
Me too.
Absolutely. So, is there any last statements that you would like to make before we end up ending the show?
I suppose you know, uh, you know, let everyone know, keep up the fight for atheism. And it is a fight because religious people are trying to convert us back all of the time. So we need to keep fighting for what we know to be true instead of and that what we have evidence to be true, instead of being coerced into having faith again. So I just wish everybody strength in that fight.
I completely agree. And that's one of the reasons why the Atheist Uprising is here, in order to perpetuate that fight continuously and consistently until we can grow in number. But, anyways, so thank you so much again for coming on. It's always a pleasure having you. It was such a great conversation. I hope that everybody who is watching at this very moment enjoyed our segment, because I sure did. And again, thank you everybody for watching. I really do appreciate it. And also, if anything, I want to thank my patrons. I almost forgot about that. I want to thank my patrons, Linear and TART, for helping me do what I love and do what I enjoy, which is giving information out to the viewer, who is you. Now, if you want to go and check out more things that is within our Patreon, please do. So in the link below, you can see our Patreon. Give it a look and see if you would wish to support the Atheist Uprising. Again, this is Joshua Void, your host. Thank you all so much for coming on, and I will see you tomorrow when I have an interview with Elmo. Thank you very much and have a great night.